Think we're live, Randy.
Are we?
It says live on Facebook.
Well, this is what we look like when we're live.
Oh, okay.
So, uh, hello.
Hello, Randy.
Right, I was distracted by a text saying we're live, so
Oh, there we go.
now I know. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to Up Close. I'm Randy Dixon, Artistic Director of Unexpected Productions, and with me is a very special guest who's come up several times in interviews before. Um, Miss Jill Farris, and we're going to talk about improv and life, and we're also going to get I think we'll probably do a health update since a lot of people are concerned about how you're doing and or interested in how you're doing. Um, and Yeah, we'll talk things improv. Again, for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about improv. If you enjoy the conversation, stay with us, but also you can make a donation through unexpectedproductions.org. We also have classes, which we'll talk, I'm sure, about a little bit later on in the interview, that you can register for the last week of September through unexpectedproductions.org. We have shows that I'll talk about towards the end of the broadcast. That's a pretty big word. Anyway, Jill, thank you so much for being here. Uh, in more ways than one. Just literally being here is awesome. so, so let's go ahead and start with your health. Uh,
Okay.
so you had a stroke,
Yeah.
um, and how are things going? And how are you feeling?
Well, at the moment I'm feeling better. I've the stroke happened July 10th, which was a while ago, which was a
Wow.
major event, but minor in the scope of strokes, I guess. So I was gone to the world for 5 days, as far as I know, back in that day, and then started improving. Had a couple of setbacks that put me back in the hospital this weekend, but it always seems to be bending toward progress of some kind. And I know there are some stroke victims that are quite injured, seemingly permanently, and so I'm very grateful for all I have. And just hearing the phrase of "thanks for being there" is heard in a brand new residence now. So that's kind of an amazing part of it. But most of my symptoms are vestibular, like balance things or things like that that just sort of a swish around the world, or kind of living through a fishbowl right now. But there's progress and exercises to do that hopefully will steady my world and balance that out. Less and less pain. I'm hoping. I just tapered off some steroids, and so I hope when they're all gone, I still won't feel anything. So, but mostly as far as all that, there's everyone has things that happen to their health or in their life, and often we don't know anything about it, or they carry around some pain or injury or burden or dilemma. And it's made me very aware of everyone that's walking through life past me or in my path or amongst each other, that's spoken or unspoken, and how dear I hold them, and how much esteem that they are managing and giving. And given these same people who might be suffering, almost everybody has or is, they've been so generous to me and completely supported my well-being and my path forward. And without the people I love, I I don't know what that would be like. So everyone I see is very precious to me and very special, and I feel like I have a glimpse of what pain means in life, and I definitely have a huge picture of what love means. So I just want to thank everybody for all of that. And indeed, I do feel very fortunate. Thank you for all your generosity. It's been more than helpful. So.
Yeah, it's speaking personally, because talking to people, they're always like, well, how's Jill? What's it like? And I'm like, well, I don't know. If you talk to her, it's like nothing happened. You know? It's like she's there, she's talking, and it all seems fine. But I know that's not the case. You're having to go through a lot of rehab and stuff like that. Is there, uh, I guess in a way, and maybe this is a loaded question, through that process, whether you were and I can't believe it was July that you had this. That
I
seemed,
know.
wow. Um, but anyway, in that process, whether the day of or a couple days after the stroke, or even in the rehab process that you've gone through so far, uh, loaded question: how has improv in a way helped you?
Yes. Well, improv is, as you know, based on the idea that nothing is known, and that as improvisers, we try to embrace that and say well, all we know is we don't know. And man, has this ever demonstrated that is true. You don't know what's coming or what it'll mean or what it'll mean to you or your friends or everything. You don't know. And all you can do is accept that, well, that's the one thing I don't know. I don't know what's coming. Maybe even a stroke in my life. And so there's that, and of not having any control. That's an entire illusion, is that we can control what happens to us in life, or what's going to come at us, but we can respond to it, and in that way respond to it as honestly as possible. And so when I respond to this big unknown, this big smack, I think of it, makes me think of people I love. It makes me think of life I love or what matters, and that's my honest reaction. Like, I honestly feel that way. And as an improviser, it's like, what do I honestly feel? Then show that. And if you dig deep, it's usually something really, a nice thing, like love or questions or curiosity. And in that way, you can feel sort of okay about the unknown, or what's going on. And then to just keep your eyes open. Like at this, okay, I didn't know that was going to happen. I'm going to accept that and honestly react to that in every way. And then I don't know the next thing that's going to happen, or what I do will make someone else happen. And if you pursue that through every step that you go through, then you're like all of it, where we're improvising, but we're not trying to force an issue or control a situation or cut us off from the experience of it. And if we're willing to be open to the experience of what's really happening to us or how we perceive it, then there's a whole world open to us that we can share. And within that also is that the sharing is that other people have stuff to share. This is one tiny thing. No one cares, So there's plenty of disposableness about it. And if you play it like that, like every scene, it doesn't matter. Throw it over your shoulder. It's gone. No one's going to see it again. In this moment, it doesn't matter. It's gone. Let's keep moving forward. And so improv is a real easy parallel to life's events, and a real easy goal to meet its aspirations of whatever the word is, acceptance. I had a stroke.
Yep.
And yeah, just responding to it. So
Right.
try to aspire to that, and hopefully you can apply those rules to help
Right.
it be something. So.
Well, and continuing on improv bent,
Mhm.
what I'm hearing is that total embrace of the offer. You know,
Yes.
it positive or negative, this thing happened, and now
Yeah.
you're moving forward from there. Versus so many improvisers, as well as people in life, keep wishing things would be different, or if this
Yes.
could change, or if it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
But versus like what is, like what's
Right.
in front of you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a real challenge of it, because we can't help but construct ideas of what improv might be, or something might be, and then try to bend it in that direction, or feel disappointed, or try to control it to do that, and then you can't quite, or to just have a transparent enough lens that to hopefully see for yourself honestly what it is. And so, yeah, I think in these times now with COVID and the shutdown and everything, it's really making us look at the unknown. And now what's improv? It used to be live with a bunch of people, and now it hasn't been that. Well, what is it now? And there's disappointments, and I don't think that's what that is. And there's also revelations of, I didn't know I'd be talking to someone in Mexico, because we're all on Zoom now.
Right.
And so there's both, and if we can keep opening up to both and try to remember that it's about people and connection, hopefully it'll through all of it, it'll still bear some meaning and a form of entertainment at the end. But man, it's wide open right now.
Right. One last health question before we get into improv talk. Is there something that you'd be willing to share with us that after going through this process and realizing what could have happened? Is there some aspect of yourself that you kind of went, I'm just going to let go of that, or?
Oh,
You know,
yeah. Well, I think I've let go of a lot of things. Partly because of necessity. There's just there's what you can do. But I think that we have a way of, a lot of people, or we have a way of deciding, oh, maybe I need an identity, or maybe not out loud. And then we kind of collect some accoutrements or some hobbies or a project or an identity that makes me. I'm an improviser, and so then I can be me. And there's such a threat. What if I couldn't be that? Would I still be me? And none of those questions are just completely irrelevant of who you are according to your props and costumes, or your little things that you have that say, oh, this is what I do. I have no need to say this is what I do
right.
now. And so, I certainly want to help in the field and continue in this craft. I've worked on it all this time and see what happens, but there's that unattachment, which is just so apparent now, because everything's been very clear, like from the time when I woke up early in the morning, it was like, you got to call 911. It was just crystal clear. I was always like, how do you know when you call life support? And it's like, oh, how do you know when you go to the hospital? Oh, you just go, And so there's lots of not these, these theoretical questions of what I am. It doesn't matter. You just are, and what really matters is who is around you, and admitting how much care they take of you and how much you want to care for them. So that's a huge thing. Like all of the crux of improv to me, there's also is that it doesn't matter. I remember you told me when, I think you were maybe quoting Del Close, you correct me, but to realize that, how sad it would be if we didn't have firefighters in the world, or if we didn't have surgeons, or there's people that it'd be a huge loss to our humanity. If we didn't have improvisers, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. And I know that now, and so little really matters besides each other. But it also, in knowing it doesn't matter, it makes it possible to do many things, but most importantly, be together. So that's a long answer to a good question.
Right. But I also think it's like, if you have surgeons and firefighters and people who are helping you to continue to survive, to help you out, in terms of improvisers or storytellers, it's that idea of the person who's there to tell us, this is what it's like, this is what it is to be alive.
Yeah.
And these are the common, ordinary stories that make everyone's life precious.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I remember teaching, kids in their 20s about storytelling, and I would always start with their lives, and I'd be like, okay, from your life, take this. And it was the first time I had several students over a couple of years express, like, wow, I never really thought about my life as a story.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's ordinary to you is, an extraordinary story. I often will quote Joseph Campbell on it, in terms of, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get to be here, and you're taking up space and food and time and all the rest of it, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
No matter who it is.
No matter who it is. And there's a lot of times when we don't really have much awareness of any of that at all, because we're just, on the treadmill or moving along, getting the next day's thing. And every now and then we do have a gift of something that really awakens us to, wow, this is my story. So yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Right. So let's move into improv and how you found it. So, how did you find yourself as an improviser?
Yeah. Well, I had had a theater life growing up, like in public school, and I knew early on that I wanted to be in theater, to be an actor, and very devoted to that idea. And I love that people are alive in theater together and sharing something in a moment that's gone forever, and that we study people. I love people and how do they work and what are they about and what are our stories. All of that, of course, is a natural, wonderful draw. I was also very shy. Well, some people thought I was shy. I wasn't really classically shy, but I was a quiet person. I didn't want attention or look at me on stage kind of thing. And so it was also a really wonderful expression of voice and body and ideas and character and all that that didn't really necessarily play itself out in other life. So I found myself really drawn to it. And my sister had gone in theater. She was a pom pom girl in Bisbee, and she was like really wanted to a normal life, like of with all the accoutrements of normalcy, whatever that means. And but she had this theater life where she examined all kinds of amazing plays, and I followed her and thought that is some person, this pom pom girl that will do this reading at a junior miss contest. So anyway, I had lots of influence, and it really identified with me. And then I took another path in life and did all kinds of other things, and a little window of time opened up, and I thought, I'm going to start taking theater classes now. I made that promise to myself, and I'm going to do theater. So I happened to go to a TheatreSports show that you were in at the Intimon.
Huh?
And I think Floyd was in it. Maybe Josh was in it. All kinds of hard hitters. Maybe Scott Creighton. These are all our historical heroes. And I saw it, and I just thought, I could never do that. I could never do that. And then at the end of the show, they announced they were having classes, and I thought, well, I'll take that class. That'll be the first it'll be like an improv class I'll take, but then later I'll take a real theater class. So I took my improv class as an excuse. I fell in love with the craft and followed it every class and everything. It was the beginning and end of my story. Just found it a place of spontaneous live theater and people that were curious and striving, and it suited me well. It's taken me all over Europe since 1996, and through the theater I left for Philly for about 10 years with a continued relationship coming back and forth. And I came back, and there's all these new people and new talent, and it's just it's found me, and I found it, and so it just took on a life of its own. So
Huh.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Back at the Intimon when all the wax figures used to improvise.
Yes.
Yeah, the Museum of Improvisers
Yes.
from way back when.
Yeah, it's so nice to see him now in these chats and stuff, with you talking to people since we're all
Right.
distant from each other. But yeah, that's been really, it's so long, since 1983, this crazy little thing. And then it's just continued.
Well, and again, you've heard me say this before, and I say this to a lot of people. It's like, yeah, we've been going since 1983, and the company continues in spite of our best efforts to kill it. It still somehow plugs along. Plugs along.
Plugging along. I know.
Uh, so then you caught the bug,
Yeah.
and one of the things I definitely want to talk about, so I guess we can talk about it now, is your name has come up in several of the previous interviews on in this hour as I took class, and then Jill Farris was there, and it was like, oh, and so hence why I wanted to talk to you about this. But it seems like as a teacher, so you developed as an improviser, then you began teaching,
Mhm.
and I know you had teaching experience beforehand, but I'm wondering, so many people refer to you as like, oh, and then Jill Ferris inspired me, or, I took this class with Jill Ferris. And I'm wondering, what do you feel is the gift of the teacher to the student
Oh,
uh,
mhm.
in
Yeah.
in improv? guess.
Yeah. I think the gift of the teacher to the student in improv is awareness and a whole new level. And because people are very busy for very good reasons of thinking of other things while they're attending or think they're attending to something, but their mind is preoccupied because they have to know what to do next or what to say or what the plan is, all kinds of things, anything but nothing. I'm available to you. I see you. I hear every word. And when you point that out to people, that they aren't really there, not in a judgmental way, but in a very normal, good for you, you shouldn't just be there. But right now, you're not here. It's an eye-opener that I think can be really life-changing. You know, I've had people tell me that they've never listened before. Never. They motor through life. They get jobs. They go to school. They do all kinds of things. But really, you can always be half not there. But if you have an improv experience where you're completely available to that moment, it can be a really brand new experience and can lead you to so many other things. And I think that awareness, like we don't really have awareness. We have identities, or we have set responses to things. We have agendas and plans and calendars, but just awareness, let me just be here now. That sounds really cheesy, but that's exactly what it is. And then respond to that is amazing. So I think that's first and foremost is their awareness to the moment, the person or the surrounding. I think also beyond that is their awareness to that. And then if they are able to then tap into what does that make aware of themselves? What does it make them aware of in themselves? What is their response? Honestly, not to this, that, or the other, or their agenda, but to that I just saw, and it made me respond this way. And it can be really surprising and really engaging. And if it goes back and forth, then it's a whole scene and story. So that's, if we can give people awareness, it's a brand new experience to everybody.
Right. And that notion of leading by example, right? So demonstrating it in your own behavior, not only in class but on stage or in a show, things like that becomes so important. What are the things that you wish, well, not that you wish, I guess things in improv that keep you coming back, and the things that you kind of hope would be a little bit more either appreciated or developed in improvisation?
Well, it's been such a journey since I came back, and so when I came back to the theater for an international show, and it was newly had been redecorated and refurbished, and there was so much talent on stage, and like audience, I felt like it was very kind of realized in a way that it could be, that it was talent and quality and respect in the way it looks and is all arranged. And then all the new people, they're not new to me. They've been there for 10 years or whatever, but some people have been there forever, and then some new people, it's like, oh my goodness, what a talented person. Whoa, listen to this. And so in that very fresh beginning was a lot of respect and enjoyment of what came to be at unexpected productions, and I was really happy for it. And then as I got more familiar with everyone, of course you see flaws or whatever, and then the pandemic hit and everything has turned completely upside down. And so what we're looking at right now is how do we do our craft in this completely different venue, or how do we get back to what is that going to be possible? And I think right now we're at a very, very necessary part, which our generous people have helped us with, but the technical aspect of how do you technically survive on this stuff and put forth an idea. Do we connect to an audience? And I think at this moment we're kind of in the sorting out the technicality, which we have to, because if we don't figure out how to do it technically, we can't reach anybody and they can't reach us. But that's also like an obstacle or a very different experience than I'm here and you're right here, I'll touch you on the shoulder. We're going to connect somehow. And we're figuring out, well, how do we do that now? And that's a big piece that's not there in that way. And I think it is possible. In my classes online, my Zoom classes, I've been amazed at how close we've felt. I've been amazed at intimate moments between two improvisers in two different places in the city that meet in this Zoom situation and really connect. But it's also a big hurdle. And I think that if we can you figure out, which people are really working hard at the technology, but also not forget that the human connection, nothing will override that or be bigger than, oh, did you see that? Then if we cannot lose sight of that because of all the technical necessities, we'll be okay. But right now we're in a huge technical challenge, I think.
Right. And do you think new skills need to be developed improv-wise, or do you think it's just an adaptation of skills that we already do in improv that will help progress this like technology
Yeah.
embracement?
Well, probably both, you know, and I guess we're like in the midst of any new technology, like any era has been. It's had a, you know, and then it brought it to life. And
Right.
I think we just have to keep our eye on the prize of life and work through the technical things of that. You know, it's like anything in improv when we get, oh, it's all about the format. You know, oh, let's do this trick or let's do that. And then we get so sidetracked into all those things. And then suddenly there's this huge character connection or huge puzzle in the story that goes wrong. And everyone goes, oh, that's amazing. Well, that's the simplest thing in the world, but it's also the hardest to accomplish. But if we get too sidetracked in the technicalities or the formats or the business of it, we can't get back to that. So my hope is we usually do. So and
Right.
we've seen it before, so I hope that happens.
Huh. Do you have over these years personal shows or forms that you really embrace or love, or that you kind of go, yeah, more like that?
Yeah. Wow. Well, there's such a variety in improv, which is so wonderful about it, you know. And I really feel like the biggest moment in my theater life, or even my personal life, was my first night of TheatreSports. This format that's about competition and playing games, but what it's really about is, of course, connecting and making stories. And it was back in the day when we had full houses, and you and Steve were on my team, powerhouse player, and it was just this magical, like, what just happened? And you know, something did. And that had nothing to do, well, I don't know if it had to do with the form or not, but it was really a tremendously powerful experience. I also felt my own, too, like, wow, I'm here, you know? So that's a really simple format with judges and scores and honks. It's so silly, but it was just profoundly moving to me in my life. And I think when I think of just like formats or improv itself, a huge show for me that's more, maybe not more about that, but certainly that goes into play is City Life.
Mm-hmm.
We toured with it during the time of when the Iraq War was starting in Europe, in Berlin. And it was a format where we just relive our days. We list what happened in my day. I got up, I brushed my teeth, all of us, all at the same time, cacophony of the city life. And then I arrived at the theater, and one at a time we end up in that space, and then we just go off of a movement or a sound offer and let it erupt into a full piece. And from that, then individual pieces might be inspired to tell one aspect of our day or the city or our experience. So what the audience is seeing is they collected our day, then they saw us witnessing where we were, and in this place somewhere where we hadn't been before maybe. And then we see, are there things that are common that bring us together? So it's a lot of creating its own vocabulary of movement and sound and phrases and personal story. So when I first taught it, I thought, that is the most narcissistic, pretentious, ridiculous thing. What is Randy having me do and where? you know. But then it just became so precious to me. Um, and the one show that I really remember was in Berlin when we barely made it to this huge theater for the big festival or conference on improv where different groups were going to do their thing. And we barely, because of protests, big obstacle, can we get through? And we got backstage, and then they said to us, maybe the Americans, it's not appropriate for the U.S. on this night of this start of a war to perform, and we want you to know we're considering that. Which I didn't hear English news. I was like trying to find out what's going on. And our attack of Iraq was described by the person as strike of horror, which at the time was shock and awe. But then I was so busy going, is that what we're really calling it? Are we really calling it? Are we, So there was all of that. And I remember you said, well, if there's not a time to try, then when? When should it matter? Give us a try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but we would like to try to be with this audience. And you went out and told them that, and told them that it's been questioned whether we should perform, and we understand. Well, we are here with you to bring you what we have through our day, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We accept. But if there's no time to try, now is it. Could you let us try? And they did, and it was an amazing show of simple observations. Just things we saw, images from the street, from the newspaper, and it was a very coming together experience for the people on stage, for the people backstage, the improvisers, and for the whole audience. And I think it didn't stop the war, that's for sure. We don't have measurables like that, but it sure it meant something. It meant something that I've pursued, from a silly night of theater sports that meant everything to this night of an oncoming war with friends and strangers. Was really meaningful. And it was through our craft that we practiced together from all over the world. So I know there's lots of possibilities. My story is one little one, and there are many others where people have had these experiences, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that was an amazing show, and I was so proud of everyone who went there, so to speak. And actually, I got an interesting mail letter from someone who actually expressed, and they were kind of amazed that, like, oh, we didn't think Americans could, kind of basically comment on their own government in this way, or comment on what was going on. And so to me, I took that as probably one of the, I still have it, a letter, because it was like, yeah, this is what improv can do. This is what it should do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. It goes all the way back to, that feeling of awareness that's so profound. The first time you tell a student or ask them, could you repeat to me the sentence your scene partner just said? And they say, I don't know what they said. And it's the first time they've thought of that. It's like us. Can I say what the world is saying to me? Or do I see what I can see? It's all part of the same experience. And when it's working, it's really something.
Right. And I do remember walking around Berlin and through the protests and all that stuff. And I remember saying to people, like, you know what? If we're going to get through this, don't talk. Don't say anything to indicate that we're Americans. Like, yes. Just keep walking.
Oh.
And that worked. So you're the head of our school, education director, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because we have a philosophy that I think we carry through in our school from beginning to end. So starting with Improv 100 and people discovering improv for the first time, all the way through Improv 600, where they've gone through a series of classes and now they're working towards performing. How do you see what's the stamp of the UP Improv School that you think, as you see it?
Yeah, I think the stamp is true listening and true variety. And so we don't try to bend it toward any one thing, like, oh, we're going to make everything funny. Come learn how to do it with us. Or we're going to make everything profound. We're just like, we're going to see what it is and we're going to play it. But we're really going to see what it is. And I think that honesty and variety and true awareness is part of the stamp of our, and embracing. We'll come and do that. We're here for that. We know you'll be here for that too, audience. We're with you, you know. And so I think that's a pretty unusual thing, than to have an agenda or have a particular bent or style or, you know, any kind of goal to make it through. So we do believe in the precepts that can help you. They're very, very simple, but they take lots and lots of practice to really get there. And so we have different means of practicing all those very simple rules. The be here now, listen, respond honestly, reincorporate, bring the story and let that happen, whatever it is. Make your scene partner look good. That's about all the rules. But there are all many different ways to play them out. Well, why don't you try it this way? Did it resonate that way? So those are theater games and improv games, formats. None of them teach you how to improvise. They help you exercise a skill that is involved in improv. And they're a lot of fun, and they're a huge distraction because we're so busy ordering and organizing and making rules and writing things down and being sure we have the agenda. If we have a little game to do with that, that keeps that brain busy, and the rest of it can flow towards your partner. So I like to think also that we take some time to develop some theatricality, that we feel like we're a theater form, and been to Europe to explore other things or learn from other people, and that in presentation, not a kind of a you know, where you make it a certain set way within a box that, oh, now that looks like improv. We try to keep breaking that. We don't know what improv doesn't look like anything, you know. It's you open the curtain and go, what are they rehearsing? You know, you don't know. You don't go, oh yeah, that's improv. I can tell by the way they act. I can tell by the way they move. I can tell by the way what they have on stage. And so that's theatricality, when it could be, you know, we'll develop it as it comes. But to be deeply acting in a scene, like really feel it, no matter what your background is, feel it and express it. Make it heard to the last row when we have a row. And we stage it in different ways. Examine staging. Examine theater and plays and movies. What kind of repertoire do you have of all the different angles of doing things? So I think of our school as quite big, not a set stack of rules and levels and formats that make us, oh, that's called improv. It's this huge unwieldy thing that's based on spontaneity and can be and is beautiful, but we don't know how it'll look. So
right,
that could go in a brochure.
Very good. Yeah, that's my next question. What's the brochure?
Brochure, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have like you said, we've got our beginning level 100, lots of nights for it. Because people usually want to take it. We're a little low on enrollment, but we hope that they'll fill up. But that's when you learn all that stuff and get to practice it. And it's all non-judgment. When do you get that? You know, it tells you what it is. You didn't hear that. You're in your agenda, and let go of that and just respond to what you heard. That's instructions, but it's not judgment.
Right.
And we believe in instruction. And then all big overview. It's a huge world of improv, so there's lots of information and lots of play and laughter that comes through 100. 200, we can hang them on some games so you don't feel like things are going nowhere to practice these skills on games. And open scenes. What if you're not playing that game, but that concept is still there? So lots of practice and at a different level. Right. And then 300, let's look at the theatricality. What are you, do you believe it? Do you feel the cup? What is the story? Is it more intricate? Did you leave anything out? Kind of the theatricality, sophistication of it. 400, in a kind of way, goes backwards to the real crux of the deal, immersion. Are you really there? Can you spontaneously connect to what might happen next? How are your stories? But very immersive, a little on the danger zone. And then Randy does 500, which is the herald level, the unstructured herald, where everything in improv can be brought into this form that we call it, but it can be anything, and it really gets to the essential of responding to your partner and creating a piece that we happen to call a herald. And right now 600 is it's in flux because we can't perform. We're not going to teach people the magical performance on Zoom, but we want you to be a better performer. And so Ron Hippie is heading up 600 and can take all the skills you've learned in 100 through 500 to let's work on that right there. Let's really build an ensemble. Let's put the shining buffs on what is something someone would sit and watch. You'd watch it too. So it's sort of the refinement, the direct feedback, the honing the performer, although be it without performance, 600 level. So right. I don't think I answered your question. I answered the question I wanted. I had my salesman hat on.
No, that's perfect. One thing that struck me in your answer, though, that I guess I believe, but I haven't really put it this simply, is, I think what we're trying to do is give people tools to allow their voice to whatever they have to say.
Yeah.
It's not about like, well, what do you have to say? Or say it like this, or say this, or whatever it is. It's more like, here are tools.
Yes.
And you can take these tools and say whatever you want.
Yeah.
And express whatever you want.
Yeah, and that ensures the variety. Because we're not trying to tell them what to say or what the agenda is. It's here's a tool so that you can have your voice, and we don't know what that is. And what's so cool is that it's like music with improvisers. There's all kinds of voices that are very different in quality or timbre or range or whatever, but are so pure themselves because they have it, And it's not because, we have an operatic voice and everyone has that, we all can sing. And the same with improv. It's not because, we have this one thing, when you can all do that, then you can improvise. It's like, it's your voice. It's your Tim Harahan voice, or Randy Dixon, whatever comes out, and that'll have tremendous variety too. But if we reduce it to what it's going to say, then we don't give a tool. We give a container, I think. Maybe.
Right.
Or I don't know what we give, but it's not a tool.
Yeah, well, I think in the end, at least what I try to do in 500, by the time they've gotten to 500, is try to express, here are things that we have found true, I have found true, teaching, but there's all this other stuff that you can, if you want to do that, fine, great, go do it, because it's this huge oral tradition, and there's lots of different methods and philosophies and things like that, and find the one that speaks to you.
Yes, yeah.
And if they take all the classes and then spend 20 years doing improv, they could end up being interviewed by me.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, right.
It's the pinnacle.
Winning, right?
Winning.
Yeah.
We won.
Speaking of those influences, though, because you have been doing this a while, I don't know, what kind of philosophical approaches or people or ways of improvising have you found have helped you in terms of as a performer, as a teacher?
Yeah. Well, I know the variety has really helped me. And utmost the quality has really helped me because I've had people to look up to, and to see that if they're responding to an offer, it's in such a believable cellular level that it just reaches every seat in the house. And so, but there's also such a trueness too. So like Floyd Van Buskirk, who's an actor and improviser, he was on the show.
He was a couple weeks ago.
And he worked with you. All the people from ago, not the old people, the people from ago. I'm the old people. But they came from theater backgrounds. They're very talented actors as well. And so they just had this access to acting to respond to that moment that made it really carry. And it's such an intelligence too, that I think that intelligence and, or at least I have honesty. I don't always have intelligence, but I have honesty, and then to think, and to portray it, to, be in theater to portray it. That's really helped me, and that's all the initial guard that came around. And Josh Conescu, Scott Creighton, and then people since then, people that came without that. And, you know, there's people that inspire me that are like Tom Johnson from Portland, Oregon, who was a stand-up and then an improviser, started a lot of improv in Portland. And he's not your actory improviser, you know, but he's very truthful and very honest, and it's very, very engaging, and it all fits together. And so I really love that about improv, that there's a real gifted improviser like Tom Johnson. Whoa, that's amazing. And how very different from how it's expressed, like by Floyd Van Buskirk, you know, who's very smart but also an actor or whatever. So I love that about it, that if it hits the truth, it's like singing. If it hits that true note, that true, you know, vocal cord you really, really have, it carries out to the audience, you know, no matter what you sound like, it's you, and people eat it up and love it. Even if it's a little off key, they love it. And so I think improv is like that, like just the truthfulness of it rings out and grabs people in different ways. So, and I also think the influences, I'm so happy that you took us to Europe, and I got to see other cities with other theaters that were that had support and production value and deep dives and full-time players, to be like, oh, what is it like to do that? What if I really committed to something like people here can? Or what if their audience was wide open and sat for 2 hours in a show that, you know, wide open to the possibilities of it. They didn't have, oh, it's going to be funny, I'll laugh until I have to get up and leave. They're like wide open because they love theater. And having that experience, just to sit with those people, to play with people, to not know what someone was saying about, to be dipped in the unknown, which is what improv should be, has been a huge advantage. At least I felt like I learned from it. You know, I don't know if I've expressed it entirely, but I can feel it. And that continues on, which is so exciting. Like once this big obstacle we hit that we can't be together, suddenly we can be all over the world. And, right. You know, we realized that, and I asked Gosha from Poland and Felipe from Colombia and King Sam from the Reunion Islands. And people came from different places to study with them. Movies to improv, yourself to a character, movement. How is movement? All these different things. They're nice small classes, but they bring a different influence and a different theatricality to what improvisers think of as improv, and they're being furthered. So the work continues, and that happened out of, oh, well, there's a guy in India, living in India right now, taking my class. Maybe we should expand this further. So I think that variety of the opportunity for my own development as an improviser is just so helpful, and helpful to everyone. I'm so glad we can try to spread that to the improv world, or that it is spreading, not that we're spreading it, but that get a hold of that.
Right. So you brought up Tom. And
yes.
Tom, you and I, Felipe, a bunch of other people are in the Orcas Island Project, which is an international group of people that are performing from time to time, different spots in the world. How's that process different than, say, your normal improv world? Is there a difference? Or, you know, a way that Jill behaves in the Orcas Island Project versus the way Jill would tend to behave in, say, a regular festival or a group show?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that got going, I can't remember the very beginnings, but we were together so long, we knew each other so well. So there was a different freedom of expression around it, where you didn't feel judged or inhibited or competitive. Not that people try to, but that can enter in, and it was also at a one-time thing, so it didn't matter in a way, and so there wasn't any like, oh, we got to be sure the audience likes this or anything like that. It was like, here we are, let's do this, and you know, and in response to that, it's, I love that you did that, or wow, look at that. So there's so much freedom of expression, and I think in that, whenever there's a way to really feel free to express your spontaneous art, that there's hopefully a way for it to grow. Or maybe you see a limitation and then leave that behind, but you don't judge yourself and get debilitated by it. and also the variety of the people from, from Colombia to Austria to New Zealand to, all very, very, you're always running into someone who doesn't maybe say something the way you do, or maybe sees it a little differently. And I think that's so healthy. If we end up in a really small world, then we just think things are predictable, or yeah, that's how I see it too. Instead of, oh, that's another way to see it I've never thought of. And that's so nice. I mean, it's disturbing, it keeps you kind of off kilter, but it keeps you growing too, or like looking at it in a new way, or maybe, thinking of something, oh, I've thought of it this way. Oh, I'm glad I think of it that way, to hang on to it tight. So, and the love that's grown between the players, we see each other not so much, especially me, not very much anymore, when we can, but it's very precious too. And that whole thing of, wow, there's people in the world, they won't always be, nor will I, but wow, we got to connect on this one little thing, and it's very, very significant. And I think also when humans can talk about anything it'll represent the day-to-day, but in a way it's removed from it, so we're maybe talking about something a little even if it's a scene and there were ducks in the pond, we're on this parallel, and it just helps us not to be in the muck and the mire, or what temperature should the oven be, which is okay too, but it's just nice to rise above and play in this. So, and then compared to, I love especially back into it, the day-to-day, keeping the motor going, making the next thing happen. There's a lot that happens in the theater. What's the next show? What are we doing? Do I have a class lined up? Nuts and bolts is a very grounding, realistic, let's be real and do this. And that can feel very, very good. Can feel scary if you can't get it done. But all those things keep us alive kind of stuff, and keep us tacked to reality, and also the everyday of seeing everyone. In some ways, I can be very, very kind. I mean, I don't see any other way. Antonio in Italy, everyone is so lovely. But when you see someone every day, then it's like, it's that same challenge. Where is my kindness in this? Yesterday and today, tomorrow, and is there depth in what we're going for, or in our shallow, let's keep the office door open and find the right wedge? Is there like something profound in that? And so I think there's comparisons to both, even though they're really very, very different. And also at our home at Unexpected Productions, when the festival has been here every year since this year, but we sort of did kind of a little bit of a mini online thing. But I find the people in the theater are very supportive, like that haven't been to a festival, haven't been to Europe. They come and they're very curious and they're very open. Some of the stuff can be strange or not as accessible. And I love that about our company, that we have some extremes of very accessible and very out there stuff, and we try to respect both of each other. So, and that's not always easy, because we have our opinions or our take or our slant, but we do try to strive to make it back to being able to do it together. And I think that given what we've just been through with this very devastating virus and economic collapse, I think that's really phenomenal. Groups don't get to hang together, much less in a pandemic or a financial crisis or artistic differences. They don't get to. And we're still somehow trying, I think. I see people trying, and that's an honorable endeavor, and I hope accomplishable.
Right. Wow. Well, along those lines, because I've been asking pretty much everyone I've talked to about this, and in terms of, and you have this long history with the company and in improv over the years, in terms of the diversity, inclusiveness of improvisation, and what you see, how has that changed?
Yeah.
Is it changing? What excites you, or I don't know, what are you wary of about the future as this improv landscape changes?
Yeah, well, that's another part of it's part of the history, but this year smack dab in our face as well as everybody's faces, and it's really exciting and very and challenging. I think that for 13 years ago, Jay opened up Duos, which started inviting the company, not just, I mean the community of improvisers. So not the company that we've honed our way of improv or whatever, but just come do an open mic. Here's 5 minutes. Do whatever you want. It's improv. And in that, it began to build to a pretty diverse audience, which is really amazing because I've looked out over years of shows to see lots of white faces, you know, and this is like, well, where are we? You know, this is really cool. And Jay kept nurturing it along, and then people grew, and very talented people came to us. So when we had auditions 2 or almost 3 years ago, we said, can we change the face of our company? Are there really great people, which we believe there were, that will make it look different than it has before? And we looked at everybody, and we chose, 11 people for our company. And out of the 11, we had the great fortune of nine people. One was over 74. We had age. We had diversity. There were, I can't remember how many, but we had a lot of African American people, Latina, and who else came into our fold? We've always had lots of women. That's been a given. It's just so nice, just a given. And everyone was so very talented. This wasn't about numbers. This was who's there and who's really talented, and that's who was. And people were very supportive of that idea. And there were some really great shows. Everything got shut down with the pandemic, and change started to happen. There was other change that didn't happen where we held on. We'll be the same improv company, even though it might look different. And then there were other things like, no, this is different. You're not the same. We look different, and this is different. And we were just at the kind of the beginning of that, or the beginning, at least for me. And it was really exciting. And people are very committed to that idea and supporting people. And having Seattle's been changing since I first moved here many years ago. You hardly saw a person that was brown anywhere. I didn't. You know, you went to a class, there was no one there. Now the classes are very different from each other. The shows are different, and if we nurture it and make it that way, or turn over reins so it can be that way, it really will be that way. And so much has gone for so long with just up against a barrier or a hill or obstacles that everyone's ready. People are saying enough. You know, and people are ready. Some people way more than others. Some people way more aware than others. But I hope that, that's sort of like we closed on Black Ice. That was wasn't that our last show? Or maybe the Sunday one after that. But that was the last time we could be in the theater. And it's just so interesting. So these are our times. You know, these are the times of 2020 when all these things happen at once. But I think there's also still tremendous hope and commitment too. And I think that we should just proceed bravely, that, you know, as things to continue the change, representation, and also, you know, I've always thought is amazing, is that places, and that you've been aware of, and that we've made some attempts to, but places that are so improvisational, hardly touch the world of improv, that are much more diverse, like jazz. Jazz is improvisational. Where is the influence and the color and the in improv, you know? And so it's like, well, that's strange, you know. That can happen, and now with hip hop and rap, these places of spontaneous, verbal, amazing things that happen. Why isn't that here? Of course that's here, and it's going to grow. It's just, it's true that there's been some awakening, some opportunity, and it's a matter of timing. And so we'll move forward. We can't go backwards. We might take a step accidentally, but try to keep moving. And I appreciate people that talk to me about things that they want or feel, and they want to enact. I appreciate it. I hear it. I can't do everything, but I hear it, and I'll hear it bravely. Here it is. Give it to me, you know, and I'll tell you too. And I expect you to respond as with love and honesty, even if that's anger. And I'll respond with love to you. So it's really an amazing time. And it's just so hard right now because everything's impossible. So we also have, let's figure out how to do a show right now. And it's going to be so everything is very hard. And it's okay to say that. It's all right. And it's all right to know we still love each other, even though we can't accomplish everything right now. That's okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. So we're going to wrap up here. We've been going for about an hour or so. And I guess to kind of bring it back to the classes, going back to when you first, sell the classes. Anyway. But I guess what I would ask for, maybe this is the tagline for the brochure,
Yes.
would be, someone who's contemplating taking a class.
Yes.
They're not a performer, they're not interested in, performing, but what do you think's from UP school in particular, the best take home? Like if I am not a performer, I'm going to take a class at the UP. Mm-hmm. At the end of that class, here's what I get to take home.
Yeah. Well, this sounds cheesy, but it really is true, is a lot of fun and real honest fun. I mean, grown-ups go out to have fun by drinking together or playing a sport or all these contrived things. But if you go to an improv class and you play together in honest, listening, aware, just unabashed ways, then you end up the night going, oh my God, I'm awake. I'm connected to these people. I like myself and I like who taught me tonight. You may end up uncomfortable, like, oh, that was kind of scary, but in a really good way. And that's so good for any person in any walk of life. And this serves everything from, and I don't mean that with a salesman hat on, but there's so many people that take our classes, from actors to storytellers to creators to corporate people to speakers to someone who's too shy to speak. And they leave saying, wow, that really did something. And so it's a lot of fun. You're going to walk away with a lot of fun and a whole new group of people. And I tell you, people that take our 100 classes, they're small right now so that we can give everybody attention. And we give you attention in a way that's very comfortable. No. I just watched the vow about that cult. So now everything I say is like, oh my God. No, but it's not a cult. We will give you attention because it's a small class and every other person attention too. And it's about the other person, so you're not thinking about yourself anyway. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice to walk away from somewhere and go, I didn't have to think about me. I did not. People are there to take care of their scene partner, and they did. We don't get that anywhere, So, and that's a huge fun. That's real fun. And then I was going to say people that take the beginning class, many take the second level and the third level. People pile into classes so they'll all be together. And so we've got lots of openings in the 100 class, but get started on this gig. It's so much fun. And there are people who take it that don't perform but keep using it as a way to be alive and creative or just connected to people. And there are people who do perform who create things they never thought they could before. So it's wide open to people. It's very affordable to people who have money. No, it's not. It's not a cult price, and it's 8 weeks, 2 hours a week, and the people are trained to be to be with you. Who's with you? Who's really with you in a respectful way that can connect in some way that carries over for a while. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen with a trick or a game or a skill. It happens with a real connection. And I pride our teachers at people who've been with us a long time that know that and respect that and aren't afraid to let that down and go, I'll let you in, and we're going to go from here to there. So it's a lot of fun. And you know what else is you end up doing some bad scenes. And you go, oh my God. And then you get addicted, go, I think the next one will be better. And then you come back and it keeps doing that. So you end up like, oh, I remember that one scene. It was so much fun. And you just end up in 600 and you're like, oh, did I have 3 good scenes? No, so it's a lot of fun. It's a great group of people to play with and a great way to be an adult and use all your intelligence and bareness and vulnerability and strength. It's just very suitable to everybody. And I would need students. So please come take a class.
There you go. That's our soundbite.
That's my desperation.
Well,
A
a couple things, and not to effuse praise, but a few things. One is thank you for coming on and talking. And things I've said before to you publicly as well as to others and to students. I mean, again, in my travels in the improv world, going all over, to a person, the only person who everyone has said they want to work with is Jill Farris. I secretly hoped it would be me, but it's not. They're like, oh, yeah, he's kind of an asshole once in a while. But everyone wants to work with Jill. And so that's high praise indeed, especially with the caliber of the people that have told me this. And the other thing I want to say is, with all the health struggles you've had in the last few months and stuff like that, it's also made me, and I think everyone in the company, really appreciate you and your contribution to stuff. And I think about it all the time. How lucky am I that I get to talk to you almost every day, and to get what we've just shared the last hour with, that effusive energy and that passion for improvisation. So publicly, I just want to thank you for all of that and all you do for UP, for the school, but also just what you do for improv and for people. It's very compassionate thing that you're doing, act that you're doing, that action, not act, but anyway, I just kind of want to publicly thank you for that, because I don't think it gets enough praise. So, and there have been so many times, I was thinking about this morning, where I've been on stage and I'll be in this really great scene, right? Or I'll be in this really shitty scene and I'll look across the stage and there's Jill Farris. I'll be like, all right, good or bad, Jill's here. I'm okay. We're going to be all right. It's going to turn out. So anyway, thank you so much for all that you do, and especially for the last hour. And again, if you enjoyed the last hour, feel like giving, give us some cash. That'd be great. If not, support us through viewing shows. We have tonight. We have the guest game. Keith Johnstone's format is at 8:30, and then next week we open Campfire on Friday. So we'll be getting stories from you, the audience, of experiences you've had with ghosts, the occult, UFOs, recurring dreams, you name it. And we'll be doing that. Wednesday is duos, Thursday is wildcard. And next week, in this slot, I'll be interviewing Roberta McGuire, who was one of my first teachers and kind of the godmother of Seattle Improv.
Yes.
So, yeah. And thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much, Randy, and thank you for having me part of
you.
the company. I humbly thank you very, very much. So, everybody, see you.